He has your look," Tyrion pointed out. "And the Princess Arianne says the same. She can see his Dornish features," Illyria added. "What would he offer us? We have dragons, an army, and the reach behind our queen. We don't need him to unite the realm," Olenna retorted harshly. "He offers Dorne, the Golden Company and the Reachmen that have already betrayed you. Tarly among them. And he offers to be a prince consort, you would have queenship," Illyria retorted snidely. "Marrying him would secure any claim that you are usurping your nephew. And it would be a return of continuity for the masses. A prevention of a dance of dragons," Tyrion offered her. Daenerys was annoyed at that. It was her realm and her nephew knew it. "I am the mother of dragons." She nodded though. Daenerys knew what she could do with him. He can have title as prince consort. But if he tries to rule, I will not let him. Everyone will know that when he learns that my dragons only obey me, with only the blood of Valyria. I will marry him. He can help me to unite the realm as prince consort. He will not rule though. That is mine by right. She let them absorb it before speaking. "It is time we begin." Sansa. News of Stannis Baratheon's demise had allowed for Sansa to no longer be Elaine. Peter no longer needed her as his bastard daughter when the key to the north was much more valuable. A tool that would give him another kingdom for his plans. She needed to be revealed to the Vale, something which had gone splendidly according to Peter. It had been a long time since Sansa had seen her own red hair, her tully locks. For those that had known her mother and Aunt Lisa, it was obvious who she was. It had made arranging the marriage to Harry, now Lord Arryn, due to her cousin slipping into a sleep he was not like to wake up from. Something Peter will surely arrange to stay true. Her marriage to a man who had notorious affairs was not something Sansa wanted. It wasn't something she liked every time they bedded. "He's not a good man. He uses me for my claim and beds every woman he can with his new titles, Lord of the Vale and soon to be Lord of Winterfell." Sansa hated the thought of him. She hated his touch as he climbed on top of her for airs. But it had served a purpose. She had an army behind her, growing larger as they helped to relieve the Rivalands with her uncle and great-uncle. They were singing Peter's tune though. The army could be hers if she could get rid of Baelish. That was what she wanted. Sansa had figured out that the man was not to be trusted. What he wanted were things that did not ever belong to him. Including me. Sansa thought coldly as she remembered those kisses and words of how much she was like her mother, or his promises to get rid of Harry for her once he'd given her an heir or two. When he was no longer useful for her plans. Baelish was looking too calm and happy as men rode to war for his plans, cleaning up a mess that he had started. Today though was different. She could see it when he walked into her tent as she supped alone. "My family off sorting out the host and my husband in a whore." Sansa took a good look at her, keeping that innocent look he loved. He was clearly off. She could see an air of annoyance to him behind the smile. Something had disturbed his plans. Sansa wanted to give a smile her wolf might have given once. Instead, she chose the one of a bird. "What is it, Peter?" she asked in a timid voice. Petri sighed and gave a smile. She could still see that annoyance. "Lady Sansa, I've received news from the north." Sansa didn't hide her intrigue. "What of the north? Are the Boltons marching south to aid the Lannisters against us?" Petri shook his head. "I'm afraid not. They've been killed. The north has rebelled against them. Robb has been avenged. Mother has been avenged. What worries you? Won't that make it easier for us to reclaim my home?" she asked ever so sweetly. It tasted like poison to her. "It would if the Boltons had only been killed only by your bannermen. They were led by your bastard brother, Jon Snow. He's declared himself king in the north." Sansa's heart leapt at the mention of Jon. She had thought often of Jon in the Vale as Elaine. Of how sweet it would be to see him, so like her father. She wanted to apologize so much, and to have a true family member with her. Another Stark. Sansa kept her emotions concealed. My mother always feared that my half-brother would do this one day to me and my siblings. Sansa said solemnly. Peter seemed convinced, although she never knew whether he actually was. Your mother was a wise woman. He paused for a moment, and from what word that has come, it turns out he isn't your half-brother. Word tells that he is your cousin, a bastard of Brandon Stark. Your father hid a worse threat to your claim in your home. Sansa didn't know how to react to that news. Instead, she focused on Baelish. Sansa could hear the annoyance much more clearly at the mention of her deceased uncle. What did my uncle do to rile you so? Sansa thought. She would have to ask her uncle and great-uncle when time gave them privacy. What will we do? Sansa asked. Peter returned to that friendly facade. My sweet Sansa, we continue with our plans. We march north now that the Riverlands is free. The North will return to you once they are presented with the only true-born child of Stark left. Sansa smiled at him sweetly as he kissed her head, knowing he couldn't try to do more in a war camp. The march will give me time to plan. I can beat you now that something has gone wrong with your plan. The lone wolf dies, but the pack survives. Cersei. Enemies to the south. Enemies to the east. Enemies to the west. And now enemies to the north. Cersei looked at the blood-stained letter signed by the bastard of Winterfell and scowled. It would be another wolf. They started this, and now they are here at the end. The bastard of Winterfell had destroyed her father's work to put the North to heel, to have them know their place under House Lannister. Father hadn't gone far enough in his age. I'll do what he did to House Rayne and Tarbeck. The Northmen will be no more, the Reachmen will be no more, the Dornish and their pretender prince will be no more. That bitch Sansa and her knights. And the dragon whore will be no more. Only Lannisters would be left to rule the realm when she was done. She had beaten the faith and brought the capital back to herself. She would win. The thought made her smile as she sat the Iron Throne waiting for Ser Jaime to approach, having finally returned from the Riverlands. Too late to have saved her from the faith. She would make him remember that he would be spending years to make it up to her. He might not have been much use anyway. For all he loves me, Jaime has become much less useful without his hand. Jaime's walk to her throne was a long one. Cersei noted that he had taken a much more serious face ever since father had died. Guilt for freeing that monster. He looked apprehensive as he kneeled before her. Your Grace. Cersei raised her hand and the court slowly left the throne room, leaving only them and her loyal queen's guard. Ser Robert Strong had proven a loyal tool since being brought to her by her new hand. Cersei walked the steps from the throne room, accentuating her power. This is my realm. She watched as Jaime had risen, still looking solemn. It didn't suit him. He should be pleased, reunited with his sister, his other half, who's been with him since birth, hand gripping my ankle from the womb. Cersei gave him a cold smile. She would make him work for her forgiveness and her pleasure again. You were too late to save me from the filth, she said coolly. Jaime looked unsure how to respond. I was securing the Riverlands for King Tommen, for the realm, for you. Cersei kept her cold gaze, while your other half suffered at the hands of the Faith and the Tyrells. You left me to walk through the streets like a common whore. I had to save myself and secure our reign. You should have returned. Where's Tommen? Jaime asked quietly. Cersei didn't flinch, dead. Killed by our enemies. You should have been there to protect him. Jaime's shoulders slumped. Is Myrcella to be recalled to take her throne? Cersei slapped him. He didn't flinch at least. He still has that Lannister pride, hear me roar. Dead too. killed by Dorne, for all that they claim it was an accident. That was Tyrion's doing, for sending her to Dorne. Something that wouldn't have been needed if you had been with us, like a king's guard should. Jaime's face still looked somber, though she could see him in deep thought. "We are at war then," he simply stated. Cersei walked past him, making him follow as she walked the length of the throne room towards the newly painted map of the realm. She took another look at him. He wasn't wearing Widow's Wail, Joffrey's sword of Valyrian steel. "Where is your sword?" she demanded. "I lost it to prove my word is worth something." Was there a sense of pride in that? He's lost 2 swords for his word. "I wonder what father saw in you as an heir." It didn't work. Sansa, the bitch that killed our son, has been moving into the Riverlands with the Vale. The Riverlords will be flocking to her, I don't doubt. And she is not the only one. We have enemies everywhere. The false dragon has taken the Stormlands. The Dornish will flock to him. The dragon whore has landed at Dragonstone. She fancies herself the conqueror come again. The Reach rebels against us. And the bastard of Winterfell has taken the north. Cersei looked at the hulking landmass that was the north. "I hope winter freezes you all to death. Most of the realm is against us," Jaime said bluntly. "It is. But House Lannister will prevail. You will be leading our armies. It is time you do what father expected of you. The realm is mine and you will help to return it to me. I want the dragons' heads. I want that bitch's head. I want the Tyrells' heads. I want the wolves skinned. I want them all dead. You expect me to beat dragons? You expect me to fight an entire realm that hates us? You expect me to march into the north, a land that has never been held or taken by anyone else but the wolves? In winter no less?" he asked heatedly. Cersei looked at the map, then him coldly. "I do. They're all traitors. And all traitors to us must die. I suggest you think the same if you want me to forgive you." She hesitated for a moment, then gave a graceful, predatory smile. "I am the queen. I will take what is mine. You'll come to my chambers tonight." Then she walked off, leaving her brother to look at the map. She would have him later to use. "He won't deny me my pleasure, even if he is not forgiven. I am the queen." Harwin. The Riverlands had become much more active again. Once more a war zone, Harwin thought as he made his way back to the camp. Between the eradication of House Frey, the arrival of the Vale Knights fighting against the Lannisters, and the rebelling Riverlords led by Brynden and Edmure, newly freed by his uncle, the land was in chaos. The Brotherhood had added to it, killing any Frey prior to the wolves ending them, and now any Lannister troops. The Riverlands had become a bloody mess. And they'd gotten news on who was leading the Knights of the Vale, the new Lord Arryn and his wife Sansa Stark. That had been a shock to Harwin, that the girl he once knew was still alive and no longer a pawn of the Lannisters. Maybe that'll make the lady smile a true one, and not a bitter one that she always seems to give. Harwin doubted it in truth. He wasn't truly sure if the Lady Catelyn could do that anymore, though she only ever gave a true one to her children. The camp was busy with movement. They were all packing their things quickly. "Have we been found?" Harwin trudged to the only tent of the camp, where the lady would be. The Northman strode in to see that Tom Seven Strings was talking quietly with the Lady and Thuras of Myr. He noticed the Lady Brienne was standing behind her as well, 2 swords by her side. A gift from the Kingslayer to save his own life. By the looks of the former Lady of Winterfell, she was displeased. It didn't much differ to that judging look he had seen her wear in her past life. It was just made more telling now. Harwin could see the slit in her throat throb and the pale skin look reddish. She wasn't pleased at all. "Why are we moving? We haven't been here long," Harwin asked bluntly. Thuras was the one to respond, We're heading to meet with the Vale and River Lords. We're to pledge our fealty to them before they march northward. Harwin understood immediately. The lady wanted to be with her daughter and help take back the north. The last news they had heard was that Stannis had died at Winterfell. Other than that, his homeland was too far to get regular information. He missed his home, though the thought of Boltons ruling Winterfell and the north sickened him. We're to fight the Boltons then? Harwin asked eagerly. Thoros shook his head. No, we've finally gotten news on what's happened in the north. The Boltons are no more. The northern lords have taken them to the sword. Harwin felt a smile emerge. He'd served at Winterfell, just like his father and ancestors. It was not a place for flayed men. Only wolves. Thoros wasn't finished though. They were led by Jon Snow. He's the king in the north. Harwin's attention turned directly to Lady Catelyn as she gave a pained, angry rasp, blood dripping from her cut throat, and eyes filling with hate. It was rare for her to be able to speak completely coherently. In most cases she motioned or had written on paper. This though, Harwin heard as clear as day, making his face fall as she uttered a single hate-filled word. Usurper.